Hello, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier. I'm happy to be here with you today, July 6th, 2021, to talk to you about a very important issue, something that will be affecting gun owners across America, even though at the moment it is only in New York State. And this is something important because we need to understand the context of what is happening and why it is happening. And we hope to share that with you. But before we get started, we do want to mention, if this is the first time that you are seeing our channel, we want to thank you and welcome you here. We also want you to know that we do long-form political commentary. And every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do a live stream on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, DLive, essentially all of the social media that the internet overlords will allow us to speak directly with you, to get your chats, your tweets, your phone calls from anywhere in the world to talk about the issues that are affecting us all. Every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we reach out and we seek your comments, your thoughts, because it is a matter of free speech, the First Amendment, and even if you are not American, you deserve that right. It is inalienable. So we look forward to seeing you every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, with that said, we want to start off and talk about what happened today. We had done a post earlier today talking about the domestic and international policy of the Biden administration. But today, right after that, or during the time we were taping that, we saw that Governor Cuomo came out and he made an announcement. The announcement today is that, as you can see, he is issuing an executive order declaring a disaster emergency on gun violence. Gun violence, as he states, is a public health crisis, and we must treat it like one. This declaration will allow us to give this crisis the full attention and resources it deserves. Now, to start off with, our first and immediate response wasn't the New York SAFE Act supposed to end gun violence? Wasn't the red flag law promised to prevent gun violence? Therefore, are you admitting the lie? But what else was the purpose of these laws then? And what of the emergency for 16,000 in nursing homes? This is our response, and there are many responses to this, many of them very, very angry with Governor Andrew Cuomo, as they should be. This is an overreach of power and an ineffective use of power, and we will explain why we think that. But first, we must understand who is Governor Andrew Cuomo. We must understand what kind of leader he is and how effective he is as a leader to understand what he is saying. Is it just politics, or is this something else? Is he truly trying to help the public? Well, we want to remind you from February 12th of 2021 when we put out this YouTube short.
You know, it's like a really sick movie made in North Korea. Governor Andrew Cuomo gets the New York State Democrats to give him unlimited power. He uses that unlimited power to kill 13,000 people. Then he writes a book about being a great emperor and makes a couple $100,000. He turns around and lies to the news media, maybe even his brother at CNN, and says, no, he didn't do that. Then he gets caught. And he says, who cares? And the Democratic Party responds, it's okay. It's crazy. Who do you think's going to do the movie? Amazon? Twitter? Disney. Disney will do it.
Now, in that comment that we made, we want to correct. Andrew Cuomo actually made millions off of a book in the middle of the COVID crisis, which he touted his leadership and omitted the fact that he lied to the public, as it has been confirmed, that he lied to the public about killing 16,000 New York residents in nursing homes, that he covered up this information from the federal government and from the public. And that is a violation of New York state law. and yet he still remains in office. In addition, since that time, we have found out that his brother, Chris Cuomo, who works on CNN, has advised him as a member of the press on how to handle the negative publicity that Governor Cuomo has received. In addition to that, 9 allegations of sexual abuse have come out against Governor Cuomo, and this total is still not enough to remove Governor Cuomo from his seats, nor to take away his executive powers. The New York State Legislature is powerless, or apparently unwilling to wield the power that they have. That is upsetting for everyone, especially when we're talking about gun control, which deals with the Second Amendment, an intrinsic, unalienable, and an immutable right of birth of every single American. This is a big deal. And as New York goes, so goes every Democratic state in the nation. Shortly, we should expect a similar statement from Governor Newsom in California, Governor Whitmer in Michigan. We may see it from Governor Tom Wolf in Pennsylvania, and many others to follow. Is this going to be a problem? Can we trust a leader who has lied to the public, who has caused the death of thousands of individuals, someone who has violated the very things that the Democratic Party stand for, such as Me Too? Is this the kind of leader we can trust and entrust our Second Amendment rights to? Well, before you answer that question, let's take a look. This is Assemblyman John Salka on YouTube. And Assemblyman Salka, after hearing Governor Cuomo's executive empirical edict, stated, Cuomo has issued a first-in-the-nation executive order declaring a disaster emergency on gun violence. And he was asking for thoughts. He's received over 95 different comments at this time. And we need to understand, got a lot of side things here. People are stating things like, get rid of de Blasio. Same as always, a sociopathic idiot. Does it give him more power? By the way, that answer is yes, Dimitrios, it does. It's another joke. Criminals don't follow laws. If they want to harm someone, they will find a way. Let's also remember that the bail reforms have continued to play a role in criminals being able to continue to run the streets, thus enabling them further. This is the sentiment that we see across New York. In fact, even a Congress member has stated, and it's Congresswoman Claudia Tenney, as she stated that in a message directly to Governor Cuomo, that he just declared gun violence in the state of New York a disaster emergency. I know about 15,000 families who would consider his deadly COVID nursing home policy a disaster emergency. And many people are agreeing with this. This is important to understand. There is no faith and confidence in the governor of New York because he is inefficient, and worse than that, he is corrupt. The corruption is something that has been proven. Beyond all other allegations, there is no question what he did to 16,000 fellow New Yorkers, and he did so because of politics. And that's the only reason. As his own secretary has confirmed to fellow Democrats, which was then leaked to the public. So we have to look at this question. Is the right, the Second Amendment, is that a mental health issue? Because that is the question we are asking. If you say that gun violence is a mental health issue, guns are an essential element of that statement. Gun control is an essential element of that. So where did New York State go wrong? If this is a mental health issue, gun violence, then how do we combat that? And why is New York State, like many states across the country, why is New York State incapable of being able to handle this issue? Well, let's take a look because while many Democrats, while Andrew Cuomo would like us to forget, we do remember where this started. And that is, in fact, according to the Washington Post, on September 19th of 1986. The problem started when New York State decided to reduce the number of psychiatric beds. According to their writer, Dodi Tismar, I know I got the name wrong, they stated, quote, critics say the new plan is a renewed deinstitutionalization, a controversial policy that resulted in the release of 73,000 of the state's 93,000 mentally ill patients between 1965 and 1977. Robert Hayes, director of the city-based Coalition for the Homeless, estimates that 15 to 20% of the city's 60,000 homeless are mentally ill. Quote, this policy is just going to aggravate the problems of the mentally ill homeless. Martin S. Begun, chairman of the advisory of New York City Mental Health Board, he goes on to say, it's also based on two big ifs. Will the state provide community-based care, and will the centers be accepted by the community? Well, the answer to that is not really. New York State had a horrible plan, and this was instituted by the way, to be clear, in 1986, this was instituted by Governor Mario D. Cuomo, the father of Andrew Cuomo. So we must wonder, there is where the start of the problem began. It started with Governor Mario Cuomo when he started releasing mentally ill patients into the public and not providing them the health care that they needed. This is a Democrat's actions in a solidly, absolutely Democrat-controlled state. And the problem only got worse. Because as we found out from the New York Post, in October 29th of 2019, state government shares the blame for New York's mental health mess. This is a post by the editorial board of the New York Post. This is their editors that are speaking on this. Quote, one statistic is telling. With 19.5 million residents, New York has less than 3,000 beds available for in-state psychiatric hospitals. Just 15 beds per 100,000, when the minimum ratio generally considered necessary is 50 per 100,000. In 1955, the state had 600 per 100,000, as mental health expert DJ Jaffe has reported, 40 times ahead of the 2019 level. Cuomo, in this case Andrew Cuomo, has closed hospitals and let the number of psychiatric beds drop. But the mentally ill haven't disappeared. They're just swelling shelters, jails, and prisons sprawled out on the sidewalks or roaming the streets, creating mayhem. So what we learn from this is that Andrew Cuomo learned from his father, Mario Cuomo, and he inflicted a pain. He was inefficient and he was negligent in his job. He released mentally ill individuals into New York State, and as we have seen consistently throughout the nation in looking at gun violence, one of the major causes of gun violence and all violence is mental health. So this is a problem. We know that mass shootings happen on a regular basis because of those who are mentally ill, who come to the determination that there is no other decision other than to harm innocent individuals. This is a big issue, and Mario Cuomo and Andrew Cuomo made this worse through their executive powers and circumventing the New York State Assembly and the New York State Legislature. I'll say it again, it is important for everyone in every state to be aware that governors will take the lead from Andrew Cuomo and start instituting these same ideas and principles into their own states. And this will harm you, just as it has harmed the New York State residents with increased violence just since 2020, which is higher than years before that. And we have to address one of the key factors that this violence is continuing is not just mental health, although that is a component. Well, one of the problems is actually defunding the police. And this is a big issue. And we heard in June 8th, 2020, as we see reported by The Hill in a live broadcast by Governor Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo, in responding about defunding the police, this is what he had to say.
The state finally taking the lead, passing these bills, as you know, some of which have been bottled up for many years, but they've been available. They're now actually going to pass them probably by Wednesday, I'm told. Do you think the department itself has to do its own internal reforms? Would you like to see changes within the NYPD itself to go a step further? And do you think the current leadership team there is up to doing that?
Now, before he responds, I want to make sure that you heard the question clearly because it was low volume. And that's just the live audience, and they didn't have microphones. So the reporter asked the question, do you believe that we have to reform the New York State police? Actually, police in New York State. And have reforms gone far enough? Remember, at this time, under Governor Cuomo, New York State had already reformed bail. And therefore, New York State was already releasing people from jail that should have been in jail, criminals, and releasing them back into the public, introducing more crime that even Andrew Cuomo admitted had a 14% rate of recidivism, where these individuals went back out and immediately committed 2.5 crimes each. It was a massive surge that has continued since that day, and it was led by Andrew Cuomo. And here's his response, confirming his belief in defunding the police.
Look, mayors run their local police departments. I think this is a wake-up call, or not a wake-up call. This is a transformation moment across the country. People are saying it has to stop. We have to change, right? When they're saying defund the police, what are they saying? They're saying we want fundamental, basic change when it comes to policing. And they're right. They are right. They're saying Mr. Floyd, Mr. Garner, Mr. Louima, Mr. Diallo, enough is enough. So they're right. Our state legislative packages will do that. But I also believe you'll see that in every police department that is now operating.
And he is wrong on many, many levels. See, Governor Cuomo is wrong, first of all, because the public wasn't asking for the defunding of the police. In fact, in every single poll that has been taken since June 8th, when Governor Cuomo made that statement, has shown that that is not correct. Even if you're looking at just the black community in the United States, they do not want to defund the police. They have not sought to see reforms in the police which would reduce the number of police officers. In fact, in every poll that has been made, a majority, an overwhelming majority of black Americans and all Americans have said that they want to see the same or more police in their communities. Now, we have heard from the BLM movement. We have heard from Antifa. We have heard from progressive leaders of tomorrow that they want to see the police defunded. We have heard from members of Congress like Congresswoman Cori Bush and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Nancy Pelosi, Anna Presley. We've seen these members and Ilhan Omar. They have said that they want to see the police defunded, not the public. And in the 22 cities across America that did in fact defund the police, every single one of them is one, a Democratic-controlled city, and two, has had a dramatic, in many cases, exponential increase in the amount of crime, violent crime, and gun violence. Every single one, across the board. So not only was Governor Cuomo pandering, but he was pandering to the farthest left of his own party, a sliver of the entire Democratic Party. He was pandering to progressives and to socialists in their demand for a change that the public did not want and has not benefited the public. In fact, if we go back to, again, this is the Daily News speaking on June 12th of 2020, 4 days after we saw Governor Cuomo say that he wants to defund the police, that he wants this to be a reality in New York. Cuomo issued order that will slash funding for New York police departments that refuse to reform. And in this, he speaks directly to, and he is talking to Reverend Al Sharpton, BLM, and Antifa, and the progressive leaders of tomorrow, otherwise known as Plot. And we see that their response, as per Reverend Al Sharpton, states that he, Governor Cuomo, has raised the bar with how we deal with policing in this executive order. He has gone even beyond my expectations. Enjoy these few minutes. Enjoy these few minutes. That Governor Cuomo is putting the state's, New York State's money where his mouth is. And the result, as we have seen consistently over and over again, is that violence has gone up. Gun violence as a subset has also gone up, and the number of police officers has gone down. The public has been not served. The root problems have grown worse. Criminals were released back into the public. The mentally ill were flooding the streets, and there were fewer officers to address the concerns and needs of the public because of Governor Andrew Cuomo, his executive orders, and a Assembly and State Senate that were unwilling to even consider trying to rein in his power. Now, Governor Cuomo, being the politician that he is, suddenly decided to change his mind. On November 19th, after the 2020 election, after pandering to the socialists and the progressives like Reverend Al Sharpton and Plot and Antifa, he then decided that on November 19th, according to Spectrum News, he says, quote, "I think defund the police went too far. I think law and order makes a difference in people's lives. What a unique and amazing change of mind after an election where he was pandering to the far left of politics. He wasn't concerned about law and order back in June. He wasn't concerned about mental health back in June. He didn't care. And back in 2019, he didn't care about mental health and the consequences that would happen because of his direct actions. And his actions went far, far beyond just that. Because we see that under the direction of Governor Cuomo, with his approval, we see that the New York prosecutor dropped looting charges against hundreds, in fact, thousands of individuals. Over 3,500 people had been arrested from the summer of 2020 until in 2021 in over 6 months. 3,500 individuals. And of those individuals, those cases were reduced, just thrown out. Individuals released on bail reform and had their charges dropped. Of the remaining roughly 600 arrests, only 295 cases were dismissed. Only 93 reached an actual conviction. We saw thousands arrested for violence, for arson, for rioting in the second degree in Rochester, in New York, in Manhattan, in Brooklyn, in Manhattan, looting and destroying property and endangering people's lives because the police were not there to help them, and New York State stripped individuals of their Second Amendment rights. New York State is one of the most difficult places for an individual to be able to get a firearm and to defend themselves. In fact, as we have covered previously, New York State under the New York Assembly and Senate want to remove the ability of individuals to protect themselves with a bulletproof vest, a passive defense. And New York State wants to remove that right from the average citizen, let alone making it near impossible and highly expensive, too expensive for the average person to even get a firearm registered in New York City and, of course, throughout New York State. This is an anti-Second Amendment movement that has been pushed by Governor Cuomo through his ineffective and useless self-governing. These are the actions of him being an emperor. But let's look at exactly what he had to say today. Governor Cuomo, this is from the New York State itself. And Governor Cuomo declares first in the nation gun violence disaster emergency as part of comprehensive strategy to build a safer New York. And in this, he proposes to spend $138.7 million. Let's stop right there. New York State doesn't have the money. New York State is running a deficit of approximately $6 billion a year. In fact, it required the bailout from the federal government under Joe Biden to allow New York State not to be, at this very moment, $20 billion in debt because the federal government waived $12 to $13 billion. And that money is coming from you. Across the nation, and especially in New York State, this is your tax money they're taking to pay for the useless ideas that this individual is putting forward on his own without any question. Now, we want to be very clear here. Governor Cuomo made this declaration, not the New York State Assembly, not the New York State Senate, not the people of New York. They were not asked a question. They were not asked what is the best way to handle gun violence. They have not been asked how to deal with mental health. But this is a health emergency, according to Governor Cuomo. And in this health emergency, his answer is that he wants to announce the creation of a new state police gun trafficking interdiction unit to stop the flood of illegal guns that come into New York from states with weak gun safety laws. And additionally, the state will continue to strengthen police community relations. That is the defund the police. They are removing police officers and instituting police community relations, in other words, social workers, and through a partnership with John Jay Community College of Criminal Justice to help localities implement and assess the reforms, bail reform, defunding the police, plans that they developed through the landmark New York State Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative. In other words, he is doubling down on defunding the police. Doubling down on defunding the police. He's going to add more social workers to try and help the public instead of police officers. And he's spending money that he does not have. And one of the key things that's also in this is engaging the youth and getting them summer jobs. He's going to give summer jobs because that's where the gun violence is coming from. It's because kids don't have a job in the summer. I have an answer for you. Most people in the nation, over 9 million people in the nation to be exact, do not have a job. Businesses were closed because of the executive orders of Andrew Cuomo himself. Because he shut down New York. And the country was shut down because of COVID. And once we were past the main brunt of the COVID crisis, Governor Cuomo allowed and continued to have New York State shut down, even as businesses closed left and right. In 2020, 30% of businesses closed. We have seen projections of up to 40% of the remaining businesses are looking to close in 2021 because of the policies of Andrew Cuomo taking an empirical, acting as an emperor and putting forward his own values and his own edicts without any concern for the New York State Assembly or the New York Senate or the New York State people. And he is spending money now on a health emergency to give kids jobs. Does that make sense? Can you name any other time where someone has said there is a health issue, so you should go to work? This is what he has said, and this is what he is doing. It is a health issue, therefore, go get a job. And by the way, you can't get many of those jobs because they don't exist. Having raised the minimum wage, having closed many businesses forever, and reducing many businesses' ability to employ people through the restrictions of COVID, the jobs aren't there. And this is a problem because it is about gun violence. So they want to, and remember, we were told in the past, if you pass the New York SAFE Act, you will be safe. That was in 2013. That was a lie. We were told just in 2018, 2019, that if we passed the New York SAFE Act, the red flag law, that you will be safe. And that was a lie. And now we're being told, well, it's a health crisis. Not even a mental health crisis. It is a health crisis. So you need to go to work. Does any of this make sense? We've been given promise after promise after promise from an ineffective individual who is willing to lie to the public to their face, who flip-flops, as we have just shown you, on issues and looks for the political outcome that is best and most advantageous for his own good. And this individual is now telling us, well, we have a health crisis on gun violence, which is predominantly gangs, drugs, and the mentally ill. And getting a summer job does not reduce the mentally ill. It does not prevent drugs. It does not stop gangs from committing gang violence, the leading causes of gun violence in New York State and around the nation. But this is a way to circumvent your rights, to take away your power. And we have seen continuously and regularly that no one in New York State, in the New York State Assembly or in the State Senate, are willing to step up and do something. We again show you, this is Assemblywoman Donna Lopardo of the 123rd District. And as you can see, she has nothing. She has made no comment about what Governor Cuomo has said. She's talking about an air show. She's talking about the Dick's Golf Open over the July 4th weekend. She has absolutely nothing to say about this health emergency as declared by Governor Cuomo. She has nothing to say about the way that this will not affect anyone. It will not help the public. And we're showing you this live. This is a live update. You're reading it as we are. Nothing is being said. She's perfectly fine with the governor making new laws and changing people's lives and taking the public's money. She has nothing to say about that. In addition, we'll look at State Senator Fred Akshar, who is my state senator. He's in charge of the 52nd District, but he is now running for sheriff. So he's giving up his post in the New York State Senate. What does he have to say about this? Again, we will update this live for you. And in this, we see that Senator Akshar is looking for Congressman Lee Zeldin for governor. So he does not agree with Governor Cuomo, and his answer to these problems is to try and get someone else elected, which is an answer in the future, though not an answer at this moment. And to be fair, we will update this. And again, looking tweets and replies, there is no comment about what Governor Andrew Cuomo has just said. In fact, one of the few people who have actually said something about this that is in the New York State Legislature and Assembly is, in fact, John Salka, Assemblyman John Salka. And we are showing you this live as of 6:58 p.m. on July 6th. Now, why is this an issue for gun control, for anyone who owns a gun in the Second Amendment? Because this is a way to infringe on your rights. That this is a way to say, in having a gun, you have a mental health issue, that you are providing a health issue to the public. In the same way that we heard some elected officials tell us that if you don't wear a mask, you are a health issue, that you are a problem, that you are a second-class citizen and should be treated as such. And we are on the verge of listening to Governor Andrew Cuomo say the same thing about gun owners in New York State. How long until we hear those same things from Governor Newsom, Governor Whitmer, Governor Wolf? We have to wonder, when they are going around and they are instituting brand new departments of government, they are creating new institutions in government, swelling our government to search out and find out who owns what kind of firearm, something the government does not have a right to really know. Registration is not national. You should not, and the government should not be able to find out who owns firearms. That we are finding that they are looking for ways around this. It is an emergency. So they must take emergency powers so that they can reduce your ability to have the Second Amendment. Even as every single time that they have made a promise to us that if we give up a little bit of our Second Amendment rights, if we give up a little bit of our freedom, that we will be safe. And it has never happened for decades now. Even while Joe Biden was in the Senate, it never happens. We've been promised this over and over again by all the Democrats and the progressives and the socialists. Just give up your rights, give up your freedoms, give up your Second Amendment, and you will be safe. And it never happens. In fact, as a consequence of their very actions, we have been put more and more in danger. From 1986 until 2021, we see the actions of Mario Cuomo and Andrew Cuomo directly led to more danger for the average citizen in terms of allowing individuals who need mental health to not be served. And in fact, in looking at what Governor Cuomo is promoting here, this doesn't deal with mental health. One of the key factors, if anything else, one of the key factors is mental health services, which he cut and his father cut, and he is not going to replace. It's just not there. Deploying a public health advocate to gun violence. Think about this. There is a new governmental office, an Office of Gun Violence Prevention. Who's going to control that? Who is part of that? What power do these individuals have? Will be overseen by the New York State Department of Health. The Department of Health is going to control your guns. They're going to make determinations about gun violence. What do they know about gangs? And led by a governor-approved gun violence prevention coordinator, someone beholden to the governor, not the assembly, not the legislature, not the public, beholden to a political office. The office will include a task force of representatives from state agencies, including the offices of mental health, children and family services, temporary and disability assistance and prevention of domestic violence, victim services, and the Department of Labor, Housing, Health, Corrections, and Community Supervision, as well as the Empire State Development, the state police said. The state police and the budget. So which of these groups deals with opioids and drug abuse and gangs and gang violence? State police do. Maybe the Department of Health do. But otherwise, this is useless. And where is most of the money going? $76 million to create job opportunities. They're going to create jobs for at-risk youth, which means black people. It means minorities. $76 million will go to minorities to give them jobs. That will give 21,000 kids jobs for the summer. This is a temporary measure. But they are putting forth a group of individuals who, mark my words, will be going out and be determining that your ownership of a firearm is the mental health issue. that if they remove the firearms, well, then there is no health issue, and therefore you are safe. Because Governor Cuomo said so. Because people beholden to Governor Cuomo say so. This does not help. And it's spending money we don't have. It's creating even bigger government, in a government that's already inefficient and cannot do its job properly. The major problem. And we have to wonder, 21,000 jobs for the summer. Not only is Governor Cuomo telling you that he is inefficient and that he doesn't have an answer, his solution, $76 million from your pockets, is a temporary fix. Even if he were absolutely correct that jobs, having summer jobs, will reduce violence, that is a temporary fix. What happens after those summer jobs are gone? What will those kids do? What will those gangs do? What about the drug addicts? What about the mentally ill that are leading causes of gun violence in America? What happens then? Because it's the guns that are the problem, right? Because they're going after the guns themselves. Just like Joe Biden has stated, he has to go after gun shops. The shops that sell firearms, that's where he wants to go, because that's the problem. That's the issue. Not the fact that gangs get guns from Mexico. And I know this, and you know this, because of what happened under the Obama administration. One of the many scandals of the Obama administration, where we saw that the United States government was selling guns to gangs in Mexico, who were then bringing those guns back into the United States to be used by gangs across the country. So the problem is an inefficient government and an individual who has too much power and no oversight. Maybe you disagree. Maybe you think this is the best idea possible. Maybe you think that this is not going to affect the Second Amendment at all. Maybe you think that we misunderstand and that youth having jobs for the summer only will be the absolute solution. Maybe you believe that Governor Cuomo is an excellent leader, even though there is no evidence of that. If so, we want to hear your comments. We want to hear what you have to say about this. Please leave your comments below. If you have found this to be informative and interesting to learn the past and to get full context about what's going on with Governor Cuomo and what will likely happen in your state, please like and share. But most of all, please subscribe so that more people are involved in this exercise of the First Amendment, the freedom of the press, and the freedom to speak. And we hope that others in other nations will be able to see this expression of free speech and follow it up in their own nations as well. We thank you, and we hope to see you on Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.